Okay, today we're here with Jason Moore. Jason is a partner of mine in two Orange Theory franchise locations, and I often talk to you about how to find the right person and the operating structure to run a business semi-absentee. I invited Jason today so we can just talk about how we connected as partners, how we operate the business today. And again, it comes down to what I call a STIC person, right? STIC stands for somebody that has the skills, somebody you can trust, somebody who is properly incented, and somebody who has capacity. So Jason has all the skills. I trust him very much from a working relationship that we had in the past. And we're just going to talk about that. So Jason, welcome. Glad you're here.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
If you don't mind, just talk about how we met, how we know each other.
Yeah, so a long time ago, I actually reached out to you about buying a couple of Complete Nutritions. I remember sitting, I think it was the Rhino room or whatever it was. We were sitting in that room talking through all the things of what it looks like to be a business owner. At the time, just didn't feel right. So didn't talk for a few years. After that, we reconnected and worked with you at Complete Nutrition as the director of operations.
That's exactly it. And that's what I talk about often, like when you're trying to find, or when franchise investors are trying to find a person that they could operate a business with, I highly encourage it to be somebody from their past, somebody that they've worked with for an extended period of time, somebody you've had good times, tough times, everything else, because that's what's going to happen in a franchise, right?
For sure.
So you need to know how your partner, one, what are their skills? Can you trust them? And how are they going to respond in tough situations? And, for me, it stuck out to me because the first inquiry was you wanted to be a franchisee. Then you became part of the home office team. After knowing you for a period of time, we had several conversations where I often heard you say, I'm interested in being a franchise. I'm interested in being a franchise. So we lost touch. I went and did one thing and you went and got into another sales organization.
Yeah.
And then I had an opportunity come upon me to open a couple of Orange Theory franchises. It was a growing boutique fitness concept. It was one of the fastest at the time. But again, I was in the situation where I didn't have the capacity to do it on my own. So I invited you to lunch, and I remember we got to talking about it. So what do you remember about that day? Like the lunch and your first feelings on, opening an Orange Theory and being an operating partner?
Yeah, I remember the drive there, like, what is Ryan wanting to talk to me about, to be honest with you? So when, we had a chance to just sit down and you're like, hey, there's a couple things we could look at. The one I think would be the best would be this franchise concept called Orange Theory. I'd heard of it, didn't know a lot about it. I think we were there for like an hour and a half. And by the time we left, I'm just like, gosh, I'm not sure, is this what I want to do? I'm starting to excel at my other job I'm doing. But wanted that freedom of being a business owner. And so, you're like, Jason, just go take a class and see if it's something you'd be interested in. I went in to take the class and I walked out I remember calling my wife, like, we've got to do this. I mean, like this is, I get it. And so that was kind of, what that whole lunch a week later took the class. I think 2 weeks after that, we got together again and you did like a napkin write-up of like all of the, what it could look like, what would be expected, of me during, if we were to do this together, and what the outcome could be. And I mean, everything's come to fruition basically exactly like we talked about.
Yeah, it's been about 5 years now,
yeah.
Right? Yeah, one of the things I talk a lot about is the difference between an equity partner and a manager with profit incentives. And I remember when we first started to talk, I had kind of presented both. Like, if it was going to be an actual equity partner, it would require cash because I had been in partnerships in the past that didn't have that didn't work out well, or there was going to be a scenario of being a manager with profit sharing. You ultimately decided that you wanted to be an actual equity partner, but I know you had to do a few things to, do the cash injection. So just talk a little bit about, are you happy with that decision now? Was it worth some of the gymnastics you had to go through back then in order to become that partner?
Yeah, I mean, it was something where, we really had to kind of think through some things and figure out how we were going to get there. But I decided I wanted to do the business ownership because I wanted to see the end prize, and so that's why I decided I wanted to, inject the cash within the business. It was a process that was very mentally tough. You go through and you second guess yourself. You're like, is this the right thing to do? Is it not? And then finally, I'm like, just step aside from yourself and make the decision. Like, you want to do it. You've been wanting to own a business, for the last 15 years and hadn't pulled the trigger on it. It's time. The brand was huge. It was growing. And so I was just like, I've got to do it. So we ended up doing that. And to be honest, I couldn't be happier with the decision. I mean, I know, over the last few years, there's been some hardships with owning one. But that's anything, you never know what to expect in any business. Anything can happen. And, if I had to go back and make that decision again, I would in a heartbeat.
Which I love hearing you say that, because we went through one of the most challenging times in history for a fitness concept, right? COVID. Yeah. I mean, we were shut down completely. And then when we opened back up, it was at minimum capacity, and we had to grow back into it. Yeah. And now that we've gotten over that hurdle, again, you're saying I would do it again in a heartbeat. So even though there's challenges, even though there's hard times, you're so happy and satisfied. So am I, by the way. I mean, it's worked out perfectly. Let's talk about how we operate it today. So, I've recently done a video for Sidekick clients on the system that we use to operate it. So step number 1 is the daily huddles. Talk a little bit about how you manage daily huddles with the team.
Yeah. So I have a daily manager call. We just get on a Zoom and we have a set of KPIs that we run throughout the day. We just go through, and if somebody really excelled in a certain KPI, it's just, hey, that's fantastic. What did you do different today that made that number be better? And, there are times where just going through those, we can learn, they get to learn from each other. I can give ideas on like, hey, this is a way you could overcome that hurdle. They know they're continuing to grow and learn. And when people continue to learn in their jobs, they want to stay with their jobs because there's a lot of value that's added with that. Because no matter what they end up going to do, they're going to understand how to look at numbers and think outside the box and look for solutions versus just complain about problems.
Yep, absolutely. Daily huddle, collaboration, best practice sharing, accountability. That's what it's all there for.
Sure.
And then it leads right into step number 2, which is the end of day report. I mean, I don't know if there's a lot to talk about there, but maybe just bring up how the end of day reports are used.
Yeah. So I at the end of the day, the team we have a checklist of things that needs to get done so I can make sure that everything got done throughout the day. It's got their individual stats, how many phone calls they made, how many intros they talked to, how many people they closed. And then, if there's any new cancels coming up, freezes, it basically just gives me a snapshot to know what happened throughout the day. And it's just, valuable to me because I can look at it and be like, hey, that was an awesome day. We need to figure out what we need to do moving forward, or, hey, we didn't have such a great day. Why? And it helps me ask the right questions the next day.
Yeah. Those reports are nice for me too, because, I don't participate in the daily huddles, obviously, but the end of day reports, and I don't pull them up every day, but when I do, I get an opportunity just to see what's going on. Number 3 is our ability to understand what our customers and our employees are feeling, or what we call the pulse. So I know we use Net Promoter Score, Listen 360 for that. So talk about how that is used and how it helps manage the business.
Yeah, for sure. So, with Listen 360, we get a score. Both of our scores for the 2 studios are over 90%, which is unheard of when you look at, businesses across the board. People are super satisfied with the product. The nice part about that is we can call and thank our customers and say, hey, I saw that you gave us a 10 out of 10 ranking. Thank you so much. What do you like best? What would you like to see different? Mm-hmm. To be able to continue to see our members be happy. And it also helps us know what's happening with our employees. Because if we have a coach not doing the right thing, we're not going to get a good score, or a front desk staff is, coming in with an attitude or not in the right mindset. It's going to reflect in those numbers. And so when you can see a consistent, 90+% net promoter score, things are going right. Once it starts to dip from there, then we need to start asking questions and looking at the team to figure out what we need to do to make changes to improve.
100%. Yeah. The pulse for them and for the employees, again, because I'm not in the business, whenever I want, I can pull it up and I can see what's going on. And it just helps me as a semi-absentee owner. It helps me feel a little bit more plugged in outside of always having to, reach out to you to find out what's going on. In the last two pieces of our process, of course, are to, when I ask you to put together the data on what was the goal, did we accomplish it? What's next month's goal, and what could stand in the way? And then of course our monthly breakfasts.
Yep.
So, what used to be monthly breakfast. So
yeah.
we get into that report, we get into the financials, and we get into employees and growth all during our breakfast time. In the beginning, I think we did this for, a year and a half, maybe longer. We would have monthly breakfast. So my investment into the business was about an hour a month at that point. And now it's an hour a quarter. Right. And so just talk a little bit about, how do you, as the operating partner, look at those breakfasts? Do you find value in them? Are you okay with that? Because some people, let's just call it as it is. Some operating partners could be frustrated if they've got a partner that doesn't invest more than an hour or two every quarter into the business. So how do you handle all of it?
Well, to be honest, at first, the monthly breakfasts were awesome. With your business background, it was an awesome opportunity just to be like, hey, Ryan, here's what's going on. What are your thoughts on this? How can we overcome these things? And you had the insight to be able to help me with some of the things I needed to know. I remember going into one of the first meetings, and I'm like, hey, I really want to understand the financials a little better. I get it, but I'd like to know it at a higher level. And you were able to teach me that. Now I can look at the financials and like, no time at all because what you were able to add value with that, so that was awesome. After a while, it became kind of mundane, like we talked about. And so the once a quarter works out perfect where we still get a chance to stay plugged in, stay connected, and just kind of keep a pulse on where everything's at, So I mean, right now, that's what we need between the two of us is once a quarter. It doesn't have to be a monthly thing.
Yep. And I have full trust in you and your ability now that we've done this for a period of time. So I don't even need it quarterly anymore. Just because I trust how that business is running. Last question I have is just as you reflect back, right? It's been 5 years. You think about the track that you were on. You were thriving in a sales role. Now you're a franchisee. You and I just opened a second brand together, and you are the true definition of an entrepreneur. I mean, you understand it. You understand business. You understand employee retention, unique selling benefits, P&Ls. How do you feel about the track your life is on now compared to where you think it would have been if you stayed in that sales role?
Yeah, I mean, I feel really positive about it. I mean, I don't know when, we're going to make the decision to, sell or move on or whatever else, but the reward that's going to come at the end of it from a financial perspective is amazing. Being able to have the work-life balance I have with being a business owner versus being like having to go somewhere and just, I've got to work these hours every single day. And I like I said, I wouldn't change a thing with going into business ownership. Yeah,
well, me neither. This has been a fantastic partnership, and this is how Semi-Absentee works. Orange Theory does not advertise itself for people like me as a semi-absentee franchise. The reason that it works is because of this. It's because the right people partnering together with the right communication and management structure. So again, as you're considering your own franchise, whether it's as an operating partner or an investor, have the right people, have the right system, and it can work for you too.